The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster Mai, good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. We're open line through till 1, so text, email, call, WhatsApp, whatever's on your mind. If you're in the north of the Isle of Man, or you care about the north, there are 15 brownfield sites around Ramsey, and an effort's underway to kickstart development in Royal Ramsey. The subject of revitalising Ramsey was brought up in Keys this week, including what can be done along the quayside. Quite what we do. It's understood there are, as I say, 15 sites there, and Alex Allinson, the Ramsey MHA Treasury Minister, says the aim is basically to get everybody together to act together, all pull on the same rope. Now, if you're in and around Ramsey, and you know that the thing is that brownfield sites tend to fade into the background, don't they? Everyone's used to it around Douglas. You simply don't notice a brownfield site anymore. It's just there. And yet when anybody who's not familiar with it walks by, they say, what are the weeds there for? Why does that look like a broken tooth? So what happens in the north? What is the thing to do? How to make it better? Is it private enterprise? Should government be getting involved? Should the commissioners be getting involved to actually turn it round? Or is Ramsey okay? We've had this conversation many times. Is it decaying or is it quaint? It was the question that happened around Peel 20 odd years ago, before the Peel Marina was built. And look what's happened to Peel in the past 20 years. Can't stop building in Peel now. So what's to do? Text, email, call, WhatsApp, whatever's on your mind. Anything else for that matter as well. And Rob's with us first. Hi, Rob.
Hi, how's it going?
Very well. What's on your mind, Rob?
I was just thinking about the Trump victory. At least you know where you stand now, don't you?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of pointless because it means nothing to the Isle of Man, doesn't it?
I don't know. I think it'll have lots of people coming over for the Bitcoin paradise and things like that, because that's going to go up to 205,000 now.
50? What is it? 52,000 now, Bitcoin?
It's going to go up to 205.
205?
Yeah.
Oh, Rob, if you think that, I've got some land to sell you west of Derby.
Well, I mean, that's what I heard. I was actually up all night on the Pepsi, listening to a live broadcast by the Restless Politics, and I fell asleep at 7 o'clock for about 20 minutes. I woke up and all my batteries were dead and everything, because I had them on battery power. So I went down to the sea terminal. I just thought, I've got to get out, and I only just heard the news 5 minutes ago.
Well, there we are. Anyway, what else is on your mind apart from Pepsi?
Not too much. Price of tobacco seems to have gone up a bit.
Has it? How much is tobacco now? How much is a packet of fags nowadays?
Well, I don't know about a packet of fags, but rolling tobacco is £18.20 for sterling down at Co-op.
And how much do you get for that? Is that 250 grams? What is it?
That's 30 gram pack.
30 grams for £18?
Yeah, that's quite a lot at the moment. I think you can get less at Tesco, but it's not as good.
My word. All right. Okay. All right. Good to hear from you. Thanks, Rob. And David's with us now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. I just want to talk about the Treasury Minister talking about Ramsey needs to get themselves together and do things in the area. But what about the rest of us on the island? Shouldn't we expect from the council ministers, some of the politicians who are actually doing a bit, is to say that we've got all sorts of stuff around the island. Look at Douglas for a start, the Summerland side, Park Road, blah, the bus station, We need to get some of the... And the other thing too, and I'm going to slip in as well, the Newsom site and the site at the bottom of Summer Hill, which is owned by the government, which is not doing anything. We've got scaffolding on it. You have to do a chicane when you're getting up Summer Hill when it's open there.
You know, I think that it will be a good idea for the public should know who owns these brownfield sites. So if there is a brownfield site, I think there should be a big sign on it to say this is owned by. Then at least we'll know who's dragging their feet. Or obviously in the case of nuisance, they can't drag their feet because they've been tied together by the government.
And then we need somebody to come in, maybe Rob Costigan do it as a new planning chairman there, and just say to them, well, I used to do it years ago, is get all the ones that are stuck or no decision on, and get them in and say, what can we do to help or assist? How can we move the sites on? You look at the quayside there, across the road, before you go up to Manx Radio there, that hole there is just filling full of water.
Yeah. But I actually did see, I think somebody's living inside the Trafalgar pub. You know, the pub that's been empty for years now. I spotted somebody inside there the other day with lights on.
Well, because I'm thinking the other day where I was quite ashamed now too, that not for Gry, but I didn't know they did the night shelter anymore. You know, I just assumed they did like the meals and stuff like that, but they also did the night shelter, because that's when we have, and I'd love, like the girl came on and explained what Gry's issues were, but with the stock we've got, the assets we've got, and money, can't we get something back to having a night shelter for people who just fall over the rails either way? And I've still got if Martin's listening from the social service or the government, I'm sure he will be, he still hasn't rang me to tell me where we can put John. I know he's in the second car park at the minute. I won't tell you where it is, but I just feel for the guy. I'm even thinking of putting some money behind the poor Jack Chippy to give him some chips now and again, which you'll at least get a hot meal money.
Well, the thing is, I was thinking about John yesterday. Never met the guy, don't know him, wouldn't know him in the street. But the thought that somebody's sleeping in a vehicle, I mean, that's surely not on these days.
Correct. And you know the worry he's got, I give him a ring every now and again. And I'm not stalking all the car parks, but I'm making sure he's somewhere. And is that with just asking for help, you know what I mean? And then not responding back to the individual. He's filled forms in to try and get accommodation into local authorities, right? Or a local authority. But that's going to take time. And there must be others out there, and all these other charities. How much government now is relying on charities to do their work? It's not right.
It's a strange time, to be quite honest. And when you think about the money that it would take to put that right, is back pocket change to the government, really, isn't it?
It is, and it will give us with such kudos. And as for Donald Trump winning the election, I just wonder what's going to happen. Do we need all these green things when he's going to bin everything? He's going to put charges on. The only thing somebody was telling me the other day, or today actually, was saying, but the Chinese will flood Europe. But that will include us in the Isle of Man, won't it? We'll have loads of phones, we'll have loads of fryers and all sorts of stuff, you know. We'll
see. Okay, all right. Good to hear from you. Thanks, David.
Bye.
Good. Yes, the lady was on yesterday talking about Gry and the fact that it closed. I thought it was last year. Actually, Gry closed in 2022, September 2022. So it's over 2 years ago. Gry was the only night shelter for homeless people on the island. And basically, staffing levels have become difficult to maintain. So lunchtime drop-in sessions you heard yesterday, food and shower facilities are at the church on Broadway. And there's also help that Gry helped 3,000 bed nights at one time they did. So anyway, from 10:30 till 2, volunteers at the church on Broadway are providing food, hot drinks, clothing also, shower facilities and a social place to meet, but as yet nowhere to stay. Text, email, call, WhatsApp. What do you think about what Alex Allinson's saying about these brownfield sites? And what should be done in Ramsey? Do you live in Ramsey? Maybe perhaps you're a property developer around Ramsey. I don't know. But there's plenty of broken brownfield sites in Ramsey. So what's the logjam and how does it need to be broken? This is one of the Ramsey MHKs, Dr. Allinson.
The debate today was very much about that and the local economy strategy being promoted by the Department for Enterprise, who have already engaged with the Northern Chamber of Commerce to look at how we can link the traders of Ramsey, the local authority, but also national government as well. So one of the things that came up and has come up, I've been approached already by commissioners, would be the quayside, for instance. If we're going to develop some of the brownfield sites, the empty sites along the quayside, do we need to crack on and do the flood defences and rebuild the roadway there? Because obviously that would really potentiate those sites coming back into active use. And that is something that certainly Treasury and the DOI are working together on at the moment to try to get over the line.
But you've got over the flooding problem, obviously. A quayside location is an attractive location. We've seen that in Douglas. That's been developed. One wonders why it hasn't been developed yet.
I mean, Ramsey is a bit unique in that the main thoroughfare, most of the shops are on Parliament Street, not on the quayside. We've got some very good pubs there, and actually some more shops have moved to the quayside now, and it is quite vibrant, but it's a working harbour, so you need to balance that residential use, the retail use, and the commercial use, and I think we do that quite well. But over the years, a couple of sites have become quite prominent and a bit of an eyesore, and so as Minister Johnson was saying, the infrastructure investment scheme is already looking to try to help some private investors bring those sites back into economic use. But certainly in terms of government, both the DOI and Treasury will be working together with the local commissioners to try to free up some of the sites that need to be brought back into use.
That's Dr. Allinson talking about the situation in Ramsey. Any thoughts on this? I mean, if you are in and around Ramsey, if all those brownfield sites are developed, Ramsey, sure as anything, will change. It will change. And if all those brownfield sites do get developed, spick and span, brand new, it may be too late to say afterwards, oh, Ramsey isn't what it used to be. So I'm not saying you shouldn't have progress, but you have to be careful what you say. You have to be careful what you wish for. If all those 15 brownfield sites were developed, Ramsey could be an awful lot different. The quayside could be a lot different. So what do you do? The decision by Tim Crookall says, Paul in Castletown. Tim Crookall from DOI to stop children using bus passes after 5 o'clock, I think is disgraceful. And it's pure penny pinching. And Bill said, brownfield sites, well, the planning won't let anybody do anything. Ramsey and Peel shopping areas are shocking. So it could be beautiful again. Rents, I think, are far too high for retailers. And planning, again, government needs to sort it out. They've been there for 30 years now, and it's all the same. So what are you saying, Bill? That you should... Because obviously... the people who own the buildings will charge whatever the market will stand. Something is only worth what somebody's willing to pay for in rent. So do you think if more places get developed, that will drop the cost of rents? And is that the thing to do? And the other thing is, if everything is developed inside Ramsey, what's it going to be? Is it going to be residential, blocks of flats? Converted flats? Is it going to be retail? Is it going to be office space? What's it going to be? Will the market stand it? If you're perhaps a Ramsey trader or you shop around Ramsey, then what do you think? What's your gut reaction to this? Is it the thing to do? I mean, it may take years, but is it the thing to do? And a note in from Trevor, who just said, you may have noticed the old Villiers Hotel is getting rejuvenated. Yes, you can tell if you're driving along Douglas Promenade. There are things moving, things being dug by the old Villiers Hotel. It's the Tavere Group, I think, that are doing that residential development. There's some apartments going in there, that hotel, and some... retail's going in as well as office space. I think with Donald Trump in America's net zero policy will be out of the window, says Ian. India, China and Russia are all paying lip service to net zero, but don't worry. Everything on the Isle of Man will save the planet. I won my bet, you would say. Trump's win has nothing to do with us. 1 minute we're part of the new global empire. Trump wins and it's nothing to do with us, says Ian. Have a nice day. What do you mean? Anyway, give us a call. Tell me what you mean, Ian. I think I understood that. Thanks also to, yesterday, Komen has done nothing about brownfield sites for years. I think Dr. Allison's getting in the headlines before Mr. Hooper, says 313. Well, it actually came up in Keys. I'd like to echo the lady from yesterday, says 081, regarding MiCards. It's clearly a case of pick on your pensioners. Many older people still like to use cash. The rural post offices allow them to continue to do so. Also, the post offices gain through the custom that they bring. We may be a minority of 3,000, but we've chosen to receive our money this way for a reason. It is indeed a case of making life more difficult for us of the older generations. I think Stu Peters should stand up for us. It's not illegal to use cash, you know. I mean, it is. You may feel like they're trying to kind of push cash users into a corner, but you still can use cash. Well, we'll wait and see what the post office says. And Julian's on now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Just quickly on Ramsey. I don't live anywhere near Ramsey, and I'm totally against that Pool Dewey development. I think it's a big mistake. And as Wilf said, when his youth, he was walking a horse up to his knees in water because it was flooding all the way to Gardener's Lane. Yeah. Just asking for trouble, put retaining walls in. The whole thing's ridiculous. So that's my take at the moment on the situation in Ramsey. Absolutely, Pool Dewey is stupid. And, as Lamara said about the wetlands and well, there's another wetlands, which is Erie Stain, which is a temperate forest, which has got all kinds of birds and stuff. So, it's the same kind of idea, which is why I'm totally on board with keeping things like biodiversity going. As far as what's going on in the US, a new president soon, and things are going to change whether anyone likes it or not. I noticed this morning very early that oil prices are down 2.5%. That's going to make renewables look the opposite to what we're being told, even more so. The FTSE 100 is up 1.5%, as is the FTSE 250. Companies that deal with the US are up 4 to 6%, including Marks and Spencer's, which is kind of interesting. And I've just got this feeling that over the last year, you remember I said that the Wall Street Journal, it's still on their site, you can look at it, and it says ESG, the new dirty word on Wall Street. Yeah. I think all this push for net zero, DEI, and which is diversity, equity and inclusion, and ESG, it's out of date. It's moulding on the shelf now. Everyone else is going the other way. I mean, 75% of investors in America have pulled their investments out of all ESG companies, because if you take all companies, there isn't a single ESG company that is outperforming a non-ESG company. So you might, if you're in your little bubble looking at how well ESG companies are doing against each other, if you just zoom out and look from a global perspective, all the non-ESG companies are doing way better. So I think the Isle of Man, all this nonsense with net zero, which we know is patently silly, it's going to cost the world north of 50 trillion. I mean, nobody can, it could even be more. Some people say 110 trillion. And it's not going to work anyway, because China and India and various other places are churning out stuff. I mean, a new coal power station in China every week.
So what does it mean specifically for the Isle of Man? Obviously, the fact that there's a new president in America doesn't affect our day-to-day living. Never did affect our day-to-day living. But, I mean, you reckon that it could possibly, I think reading between the lines, you're saying that what Mr. Trump, his policy on, obviously he says with oil, drill, baby, drill. He calls coal beautiful coal. So you think that may discredit the direction that we're going in?
What do you think is going to happen to the price of petrol? I mean, we talk about people on the Isle of Man, how it will affect them. if that price drops, I mean, it hasn't really been below 130 something for a long time now. If we suddenly start having £1.10 for that, your heating oil and your gas drop significantly, that's an immediate effect on the Isle of Man, isn't it?
Yeah, I take the point where fossil fuels are concerned. I understand that. But I mean, that will take anything political will take years to filter through, surely.
Yeah, but day one, he's going to sign on the dotted line for quite a few different things. It remains to be seen. But, the last time he was in, he did it. And if we're going to drop fossil fuel, that's going to reduce the supply chain costs for everything as well. All the stuff that you bring in from Amazon, if the red diesel that's being supplied to all the massive ships drops significantly, well, there's no excuse then they might make an excuse. It's a bit like the electricity price here, still on the increase, despite the fact that wholesale natural gas has dropped massively since 22. But the excuses for keeping everything expensive are going to fall by the wayside soon, I would imagine. So as far as the Isle of Man's concerned, it's going to make a huge difference.
Okay. On a personal level, Julian, are you happy that Mr. Trump's been elected?
I think if you're upset about the cost and the way that they're going upwards, they will definitely come downwards, if anything, from 2016 onwards is concerned. So, regardless of the messenger, and, he has his fault, but if the guy can actually do what he did in 2016 and make everything cheaper for everyone, because, America produces a vast amount of fossil fuels. There's no getting away from it.
Well, it has to be said, under Mr. Trump the first time, America became a net exporter of oil, which he hadn't been before.
Yeah, and of course, when Biden basically handed over the keys to OPEC, it all went up. So, of course, Trump's not into doing, the bidding of OPEC and the Saudi. So, they have to abide by it. Otherwise, they lose even worse. You can't have America exporting vast amounts of petrochemicals at way cheaper than you, because you'll just lose all the business.
Okay.
So they have to follow.
All right. Okay. Appreciate it, Julian. We've got to crack on. We've got a queue behind you.
Okay, doke. Thanks.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. I want to go to Tina now. Hi, Tina.
Hey, Andy. How's it going there?
Very well. What's on your mind?
Okay, it's not the Summerland site for a change. It's something else. I was listening to David earlier talking about his friend John, who has had to resort to sleeping rough in a car park in his car.
Yeah.
It's absolutely horrendous in this day and age that anybody on this island has to do that. And it's not the first time I've heard of this happening, sadly. But about almost 2 years ago, I started a scheme called I'll Pay It Forward, whereby we have 18 cafes participating. And anybody who is struggling and is with the food bank, one of the 3 food banks that we have, sadly, on the island, or Graia, or the Salvation Army, or Motivate, will be given a card if they're struggling for food. And with that card, they can go into any of the cafes who are participating and get a hot meal and a drink. And I'd be very happy to give John such a card. He obviously won't have any facilities for cooking if he's sleeping rough in a car. And I don't know if he's already approached any of those charities and has a card, but if not, I'd be very happy to do that.
How long's that been going, Tina?
It's been going almost 2 years for January coming up in 2025.
Okay, and how is it administered? I mean, did you start the charity?
Yes, I did. Yes.
So, and you went to various retailers, hospitality people, and they said yes, obviously.
Yeah, all of the cafes are very, very on board with helping the local community, and they're absolutely wonderful. And also, the Manx public and visitors who have donated over the past 2 years have been absolutely fantastic. What they do is when they go into a cafe, they have the option, if they would like to do so, to donate a little bit for somebody who's in need. That money is kept, or it could be a receipt for a meal or a coffee or tea or whatever. That's kept by the cafe, and then if somebody comes in with a card, they simply have to hand it to them. There's no questions asked. There's no inquiry. They will be treated with a lot of respect, which all the cafe owners do, and their staff.
Okay, if anybody wants more information about this, Tina, what do they do?
If they want to phone me, I'm quite happy to give out my phone number.
Okay, yeah.
424-806. But particularly, if David is listening, if he could phone that number and let me know how to contact John so he can get a card.
Okay, and...
it breaks my heart in this day and age that somebody has to sleep in a car rough on the Isle of Man.
Okay, and just who are some of the cafes that are involved in this then? Give half a dozen of them a plug, would you?
Okay, we've got them all over the island. We've got the Sound Cafe, we've got Whistle Stop in the south, we've got Cafe Red, we've got the Brunch Cafe in the north, the Swimming Pool Cafe in the north, we've got the Peel Kiosks, we've got Dee Dee's Cafe in the main street in Peel. In Douglas, we've got the Freshly Squeezed. We've got the Ticket Hall down at the train station. We've got Capone's Diner. There's loads of cafes that are very, very happy to be involved.
Appreciate that, Tina. So it's 424-806, yeah?
Yeah.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. That's the I'll Pay It Forward concept that Tina was talking about. Frida's on now. Hi, Frida.
Hi. Hello, Andy. Now, what I'm on about is the MiCard. Now, I have the MiCard, and I definitely object to it being stopped. For the simple reason is people like to go up to the post office, they buy savings stamps, they buy ordinary stamps. If it's a shop, they go and buy food or whatever's in the shop. And not only that, a lot of the older people, it's a thing to make them get up, go out and get the pension. Now, another thing is that we don't all have the internet, we don't all have online banking, and another thing, if you want to and get money, where do we go to get the money? You've got to go out and get that. And not only that, at the cash machine, if it happened like the other week, there'd be no money in it. Now, if we want our money that way, that's the way we want it. And there's not only pensioners that go up there, there's people that get benefits, and they buy stamps to pay the bills. It's definitely wrong, and everybody should get in touch with the MHKs and object to this.
Okay. Don't you ever feel vulnerable? Don't you ever feel a bit kind of lost having cash on you? I mean, I'm not going to ask how much cash you carry around with you, but are you happy carrying cash around, Frida?
Oh, I love it. I hate those cards. I pay by cards at some things when I go out, but I like cash in my pocket. And when we've been brought up, Andy, to have cash in our pocket, we know what we're doing. I don't want to go and buy a birthday card for £1 and pay with a card.
Okay.
No, I object to it. It's all right if you're young, and that's the way they are. They have the money put in a bank. But as I say, there's people that get benefits that pay with the MiCard. It's not only pensioners. Okay,
all right. We appreciate. Thanks for calling today, Frida.
Yeah, and as I say, Andy, I strongly object because when that cash machines were all out, people were borrowing money off me because they had no cash.
Okay. Good for you. All right.
Thanks very much, love.
Thanks, Frida. Good to hear from you.
Love.
Cheers.
Bye, love.
26 minutes before 1. Can note in from Max, who just said, just regarding what people are talking about, being able to access cash, I think the people who are in charge have not quite realised that the Isle of Man isn't the UK. Because in the UK, sometimes you are frightened to carry cash. Because of the prevalence of inner city crime in many places in the UK, because of muggings and things like that, that carrying cash in the UK is probably seen as a bit of a negative, but we're on the Isle of Man. And it simply doesn't happen. It simply doesn't happen. You will struggle to find the last time anybody got hit over the head for £5. It just doesn't happen on the Isle of Man. So cash is not a bad idea on the Isle of Man if you're talking about criminal intent. What do you think about what Max has to say? Text, email, call and WhatsApp. And our American correspondent is now on the line from Florida. Good afternoon, or is it morning in Florida, Juan?
It's a very early morning, Andy. 7 o'clock. Well, that was an interesting night. I think there's everyone going round to Bonzo's tonight for his party because he'll be in adoration of Mr. Trump getting in, I'm sure. But when you say that it's not going to affect the Isle of Man, I certainly think it will in a lot of ways. This is a direct pushback of the people against far left issues. And that's quite clear. The American people have had enough of what's going on over there with the vaccination issues, the sexual education issues. If you listen to the people over here, they're fed up of it. I mean, it's a country divided. And I just hope we get enough interest in our elections next time round as what it is here. But it's definitely a country divided. But I think it will ripple through the whole. I think a lot of people in the whole of Europe and England and everywhere was waiting with anticipation to see what happened on this. So I think it will have an effect, Andy.
Well, it's interesting to see that Europe itself, Europe is turning to the right, and obviously America has turned to the right, whereas Britain's turned to the left.
I know, and they will suffer for that because the people have had enough. And this is what happens because the pendulum swing goes far left, far right. And now it's going way over the other side now to try and get some stabilisation because what's been going on within our government and in English government is stupid. They need to stop following agendas from likes of KPMG and giving these people vast amounts of money who are just a side spin of BlackRock anyway. Our government needs to get a grip on what they're doing for the people. But as far as just a final note on the Trump thing, I think this is just the start of the issues. And I was talking to friends of mine in April before I left here who's 20 years FBI served and also a district court judge and a district attorney. And I said, I think you've got civil distress coming. And they said, we'd agree with you. So I think the Lockheed Martin and the war machine will definitely not want Trump in.
Okay,
so,
just a quick thing, though. I was watching TV last night. Has he lost weight?
Has he lost? Well, I think if people keep shooting at you, Andy, I think it gets a bit of weight loss.
It may put you off your appetite, yes, but I mean, I could have sworn last night he looks like he's losing weight.
He hasn't lost the hairdresser, though. He's still got the same hairdresser, hasn't he, bless him?
All right.
You could do with his hairdresser, Andy.
Oh, thank you very much.
Couple of points on local issues. Yesterday, I think it was someone said quite funnily that on a comment yesterday about it was Frank Schnugel about our new chief constable thinks he's RoboCop. It was quite amusing. 7 police vehicles in Murray's Road for a domestic dispute with armed police. And the whole road cut off from the pictures that I've got. 7 police vehicles for a domestic dispute. Is this the way it's going? And I'll say it again. Is this going to be the norm? Is this what we want? Is that not something that, a police officer with a taser gun could sort out?
Well, we don't know because we don't know what it was really, and we won't know until anything's happened. I mean, it may have been a domestic dispute, but there could have been all sorts of ramifications to it. And the chief constable, what he said was, he doesn't want, I think, to paraphrase him, he doesn't want to be the one going round to a police officer's husband or wife or mother or father and telling them that they got injured, simply because they weren't armed or, somebody pulled a knife on them.
Yeah, and the sun might shine at night. I mean, this is the how the fear factor grows. You instill fear in people's minds, and then you accept this as the normal, where really it doesn't need to. I mean, we've said this before, it's the Isle of Man. Unless, of course, they know that there's something coming that we don't, in which case they should snip it in the bud over the other side before it gets here.
Okay, all right.
Just one more thing, Andy, on the growth of Ramsey, and Alex Allison says about pulling together and pulling on the same rope. That would be really nice if the government did pull on the same rope as us for a change. But again, going back to what I said about Derby, if we're going to build more houses, surely we should build it with a new drainage construction and infrastructure, because the pressure that it's putting on other parts of the island with Peel and Onchan and all these other places is putting a massive stress on our Victorian drainage system. Surely we should be starting by building a new town somewhere where there's space, and that would encourage business into Ramsey, because if you look at Ramsey, although there's a lot of independent and small shops there, I'm sure they're struggling for footfall. So, encourage that by, maybe building a the town nearby, putting some more parking, maybe another level of parking in the Tesco car park at Ramsey, which is Commissioners owned, and encourage growth in the north of the island, so Ramsey doesn't struggle.
Okay.
A few more points, but we'll do it another day, Andy.
All right, good to hear from you. Thanks, Stuart.
Take care.
19 minutes to 1.
What comes out of your speaker is just the tip of the iceberg. Check out everything we do on manxradio.com.
Housing, benefits or employment issues, faulty goods, bad workmanship, financial problems and relationship breakdowns. We all run into difficulties in life, and it can feel like there's no one who can help you sort them out. But at Manx Citizens Advice Service, we can help. As an independent charity, we offer free, confidential support covering all sorts of areas. You don't need an appointment. Just call in at Promenade Church, Loch Promenade, Douglas, or call 366 338. Open Tuesdays from 12:30 till 3 and Fridays 10 till 12:30. Manx Citizens Advice Service. Your advice service. Start your journey at University College Isle of Man. Come along to our next open evening on the 14th of November from 4 p.m. until 7. Whether you're coming up to finishing your GCSEs, thinking about your next steps after A-levels, wanting to upskill, or considering a career change, at UCM we have a variety of courses to help you achieve success. Explore the facilities and chat with our expert lecturers about our range of full-time, part-time, apprenticeship and short courses. Find out more at ucm.ac.im.
Dear Santa, this Christmas I would like more customers and more sales, please. I have been very good.
There are more reliable ways to make sure your business gets what it needs this winter. At Manx Radio, we'll create tailor-made advertising solutions to get you the results you want over the festive season and into the new year. Call our friendly sales team now on 682620 and give your business a really happy Christmas and New Year with the nation station Manx Radio.
Can I have a new bike too?
No, buy your own.
Oh.
On this evening's Spotlight, we hear how the Labyrinth players are all at sea. The service players get clued up at the Gaiety, and the next drag brunch is coming to town. Spotlight, crafted by those creative lovelies at the Arts Council and presented by me, H. This evening, just after 5:30, and available as a podcast straight after broadcast by the Manx Radio website or your favourite podcast provider. Spotlight, brightening your day with arty goodness.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
17 minutes now before 1 after Mannin Line today. It's Wednesday. It's our 60th anniversary year, so we're revisiting Kelly's Eye, retro Kelly's Eye, with Peter Kelly and David Cullister going back to school. They revisit the St Ninian's Assembly Hall after Mannin Line today. Just a quickie, says 623, instead of those who live near Erie Staine and don't want their views spoiled and are coming up with all kinds of arguments, most of which can be dispelled if they bother to go inside and listen. Presumably that's the roadshow inside. I'm with the 44,000 households and business on the Isle of Man who'll benefit from this scheme. Says that's anonymous, by the way. 623. Sign it next time, anonymous. We'll give you a name check. Yeah. On last week's vote of no confidence, I heard somebody saying the Chief Minister didn't win comfortably. Well, of course he did. In fact, he's got a bigger majority now than he did when he was elected 3 years ago. That was James dropping a note in. Do you feel like celebrating, says Crystal. Hello, Crystal, 775. I'm so happy now the world's got a chance and more power to the people, not the corporations. Thank the Lord for Donald Trump, says Crystal. Thank you, Crystal. Brownfield sites. Hillary said, Andy, I walked by Park Road site in Douglas and I'm sick to death of nothing happening with it 11 years on. Douglas MHKs are doing nothing for this. Government site, you may have heard, I think, the Education Minister, Daphne Kane, said that Park Road could be the site of the new Murray's Road School. So that means Murray's Road will be flattened and possibly used for residential development. Also, as part of Park Road, remember the government owns the Bowling Green pub. And what used to be the Bowling Green. So that's an enormous footprint of a site. It's absolutely huge. Saturday, you may have seen, they were selling cars there. There was an auction, car auction, a vehicle auction. 20 cigarettes are £15, says 376. £15 for cigarettes. Thank you, Frankie, Francis, Francesca. Maybe those who own brownfield sites who are finding it difficult to get planning should look into purchasing corporate hospitality at major UK sporting arenas. Thank you, sir. You don't speak from experience, do you, 762? Your life is going to improve under Donald Trump. Stop listening to CNN. What's CNN? Thank you, Desmond. Good to hear from you. I'd like to echo the lady from yesterday regarding MiCards. Says 081. They're picking on the pensioners again. So remember, we need the cash and we need MiCards. Comyn's done nothing with brownfield sites for years. So I think Dr. Allison's just getting those headlines. It's a good job that Harris didn't win because we'd all be living in cars, says Des. The government, DIE, is this true? DIE now own the old ShopRite chalets on Victoria Road. Is this true, says Pat? Not heard that, Pat. A message also regarding, and this was mentioned a wee while ago, and it is concerning stones on the beach. We'd never really got to the bottom of this. Is it true that Manx citizens aren't permitted to collect stones from the beach for landscape gardening projects? Well, our friend Neil has been bottoming this out, and apparently there was years ago a bylaw whereby corporate people, companies, couldn't go onto the beach, simply shovel up lots and lots of stones and take them away. As for people getting half a dozen or more and using them in landscape projects, it's a bit of a Manx compromise, really. I don't think anybody's going to stop you, but if you take too many, you may be breaking a bylaw. Does that answer your question? Unless you know better than I do, maybe there are different bylaws around the different beaches, perhaps in Port Erin, Port St Mary, in Peel, Derby Haven, for that matter. Imagine nobody'd notice if you took anything from Derby Haven, would they? So are you permitted to collect stones from the beach for landscape gardening projects? Text, email, call, WhatsApp, and more messages in. Getting rid of MiCards, says John, will bring disappointment to many people each week. It's a good reason to go out. Lots of pensioners get their pension, go for coffee, sometimes lunch, and in doing so help the economy. Keep the post office and preventing the possibility of another empty shop in a town centre. There are still people who don't have bank account, or in some cases can't get a bank account. Weekly benefits and pensions are in some cases of domestically abused individuals and also pensioners, their only access to money. So I've failed to see how getting rid will save £500,000 a year. I am yet to be convinced, says John. Why can't the lady ask for cash back in Tesco's or the Co-op when getting groceries? It's available everywhere, not just the post office, and you can have a natter when you're there. Well, it depends how busy they are at the Co-op. Sometimes they're very busy. Maybe they may not want to talk. Let's have a look. Andy is correct to say the effects of this will take a while to filter through. Let's see what happens if Mr. Trump imposes the trade tariffs he threatened, which are widely recognised will devastate their economy, or how Europe is affected if Trump appeases Putin over Ukraine, which seems likely, says Steve. We don't know, do we? I mean, Mr. Trump was only elected a few hours ago. There's certainly not even been officially confirmed yet that he's done it, although it certainly looks like he has. But we'll see how this affects, first of all, how it affects Britain, and consequently after that, how it affects us. What about some first-time or last-time buyers' apartments for Ramsey Quay, built to be in keeping with the traditional surrounding buildings? Planning can control this, says Maggie. Developers should be made to develop a brownfield site before they can build estates. Well, compelling developers. Interesting, because remember, they're the ones that hold the purse strings. They're the ones that are paying. Albeit, in and around Douglas, they're getting some cash back at the end of the project from the government to develop some of these brownfield sites. But compelling developers, I know it's a great idea, and we do need first-time accommodation, first-time buyer accommodation, and we certainly need some last-time buyer accommodation. Anyway, Liz said, I suppose the marina's dead in the water and out of the question. Well, it depends where you put it. Of course, I think Mr. Bromley Martin wants to put that particular marina on South Beach. So whether that doesn't seem to be happening at the moment. There's not much talk about that. Trump will not drop fossil fuel, says Kenny, so hooray for Trump it is. Can we scrap the insane net zero, says, these are 068's words, by the way. All it will do is bankrupt us for nothing and cause horrendous damage to the environment, Erie Stain and the seabed. That's 068 talking about that. It's the best thing that's happened for 4 years. I'm all for Trump, says Desmond. I know, Desmond, you've sent me 6 emails to tell me that. Thank God Trump got in. All we need now is to get rid of the UK government, says Paul. Well, he may be a wee while figuring that one out. Talking of elections, the candidate in the upcoming Onchan by-election is, there are 3. There's a by-election in Onchan, and former Commissioner for Garth, Nigel Dobson, is standing for Onchan commissioners. Also, Oliver Lockwood and Scott Wilson. So Mr. Lockwood, Mr. Wilson and Mr. Dobson. And if you're eligible to vote, you can vote at the Hub on School Road in Onchan from 8 till 8 a week tomorrow, Thursday the 14th. And they'd like to see you there. More messages coming in. It's not a year since Ramsey commissioners said they were following Douglas's lead and tackling the dilapidated and derelict properties there are within a few miles of Ramsey Centre. Nothing has been done. Not even a letter's been pushed through a door asking the owner to clean up the rubbish and how to attract more people. Just curious about whether the petition against closing Castletown Square was considered. Yes, it was, apparently. Wasn't it considered? Hasn't it been passed now? Isn't there a Castletown Town Square now is going to be closed around the year, isn't it? I don't think it's John's choice to live the way that he does, because I know somebody who was in a similar situation, was offered help and he took it and is no longer living on the streets. This is the case that's been brought to our attention through David about this gentleman who is living in his car and is homeless simply because the circumstances have forced him into this position, and there doesn't seem to be effective help coming forward. But obviously we wait and we watch. I agree with Jewin, says Ian. We're being forced down a route which we can't afford. And while the likes of India and China pollute as they like, and let's be honest, with Donald Trump winning the US election, I can't imagine he'll be bothered with a green agenda. So why should a small nation like ourselves bankrupt ourselves? It's crazy, says Ian. Bring on world peace. Welcome back, Donald Trump, says this correspondent. Well, if you've got anything to say, of course, you can always WhatsApp, you can always text and email. Next Thursday, a week tomorrow, Councillor Watson will be in, and David Ashford, MHK, Councillor Devon Watson from Douglas Council will be in talking about housing. It'll be interesting. I understand there are some big plans for Douglas. So we hope to hear those next Thursday, a week tomorrow, with Douglas North MHK, David Ashford, and also Councillor Devon Watson. Will said, Andy, I used to live in the streets of the Isle of Man, and I sympathise with anybody who does. And we should keep the post offices. I feel more secure about the future now. Now Donald is back in his seat. Well, I think we get the measure of the response. That's it. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones. Back to tomorrow at midday. Open line.
WINT. 60 years serving you as the nation's station. This is Manx Radio.
Kelly's Eye, brought to you by Ellis Brown Architects.
Peter, what's Kelly's Eye looking at today?
Well, today, David, we're inside, and I'm looking at modern technology in an old building. It's an aluminium frame hanging from a ceiling, and on it is all sorts of strobe lights and spotlights and floodlights, sort of thing you'd expect in a theatre, but we've actually come to a school assembly hall, or what was the school assembly hall. I don't know quite what purpose it serves anymore, but it's been renovated, and renovated in the sense of removing stuff that had been added and redecorated, replastered, the floor polished, and it's serving a jolly good purpose. In fact, there's been a function here tonight. Well, in my day and your day, this was the Douglas High School for Boys Senior School, which is at St Ninians. Despite the date above the door, which says 1924, it actually opened in 27. This was the assembly hall. It's not quite as it was in our day, because down at the far end where we're looking now, there was a gallery, and the gallery, or balcony as they called it, was where the sixth formers and the masters stood for assembly. So when everyone was singing hymns, a very deep voice was coming from up there. And then underneath, of course, that the hall went back. But what's happened over the years, they've actually sealed that off in order to create storage. The chairs get kept in cupboards there, and then upstairs there's interview rooms.
Well, we're not really here, I suppose, to entirely talk about the room itself, but perhaps on what's contained in it on this particular evening.
Well, on this particular evening there's been a presentation by sixth formers, I presume they're still called sixth formers, where they've selected 20 past pupils of what was the Douglas High School for Boys, Douglas High School for Girls, the Douglas High School, and then St Ninians School, the Lord Quirk, who I think is now 85, through to Kevin Woodford, and then Martin Rowe, and some of the more modern, Nicky Granger, who was Scorpio. But it's interesting to see these around the wall, because there above the door is the lovely Knox-designed war memorial to past pupils who lost their lives in the First World War.
Yes, that was outside of this
It was outside
room,
on the staircase, and of course it was quite impressive as you walked on the upper corridor, because the sunlight came down on it.
That's right.
But that really, I think, links the past with the present. And that's good. It's good to see it, and it's good to think that the hall is now fully back in use. And I'd like to think it'll continue to be that way for a long time.
Many of the most iconic buildings around the island have been designed by Ellis Brown Architects. Keep up with Ellis Brown today on Facebook or via ellisbrown.in.
Part of island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio.